Welcome to another episode of Wealth Beyond Numbers. I'm your host, Dennis Coral, and we're here with Deirdre Nero. And Deirdre, today I want to know more about your practice. And I know you for a few years, and I know a little bit about what you do, but our audience doesn't. So I'd like you to please share about neuroimmigration law, why you started it. You're very passionate about what you do. You've been doing this for many years. So if you can kind of share about what you do, what kind of clients you work with, what kind of clients you would like to meet, and what sets you apart?
So I was lucky enough to figure out pretty early on that I wanted to do immigration law. In school, it was like literally the only class that I actually liked and wanted to do the homework for in law school. And wanted to raise my hand and volunteer. In every other class, I was like hiding so I wouldn't get called on. I was like never reading the assignments. I was just like doing the minimum that I had to do to get like decent grades. And then I found my immigration law class and I was like it like opens up a whole different world for me, that something that I actually connected to and felt like, wow, this could be the thing for me. So I always kind of had that in the back of my mind. And then I was lucky enough to study abroad and live in Spain for a while, both before and after law school, and actually during law school as well. I did some internships in Spain at different law firms in the summers. And so I was really, I want to work with international clientele. I don't know what that means, so I took all these international law classes trying to figure out, like, how do I do something with international clientele? And all of the, like, just straight international law classes, I was kind of like, this is kind of not what I envisioned for my life. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And then when I hit on immigration, I kind of knew that was where I was going to take it. So luckily, I started my career at a firm, and I had a great mentor who really wanted to help me become a good lawyer, but also gave me the opportunity to do immigration law from like the very beginning. It wasn't really like him serving it up to me on a platter. Like, I have always had the mentality that like, if you want something, you need to ask for it. So I was like ballsy, and I like went into he was basically like the main partner of this law firm. The law firm was named after him. And I sat down in front of him. I'm probably 1 month out of law school. Like, I'm just a baby attorney. And I'm like, I only want to do immigration law. I don't want to do any of these other types of things that all the older attorneys are asking me to do. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. I only want to do immigration law. And he was like, okay, you've been an attorney for like 5 minutes. Like, why are you demanding like that you specialize? This was crazy talk. And then fate kind of stepped in, and I can say it because the guy is still alive and thriving. But one of their immigration attorneys in another office had a heart attack. And because I had gone into my boss's office and told him that this was what I wanted, they knew to come to me and to say, listen, this person had a heart attack. He is like out of commission. He's fine, but he needs like months of convalescence, So would you want to go live in Tampa at the other office and basically like step in for him? Now, mind you, this is a guy who had been practicing immigration law for like 30 years. And I was like a 2-month attorney, and I was like, yes. And I just said yes, because I knew like this is the opportunity being served to you on a plate. If you don't take it, you're an idiot. So I just said yes, even though it was like the last thing I wanted to do was like move to Tampa. This was at the very start of my career. So this was 2003. So 20 plus years ago. 2 years ago? I live in Tampa. I lived in a now I probably would not even set foot or lay down in a hotel like this, but it was like a very sketchy, like extended stay hotel. I rented like a little car, and I just lived in Tampa, and I basically took over this guy's immigration practice. He had 2 paralegals that had been with him for like 20 years that were very experienced. And I'm coming in like this little girl in her 20s, like, what, help me. I'm here to like be the attorney. And they were like, okay. And they just taught me everything. And I ate, slept, and breathed immigration and this guy's clients and working with his paralegals for a couple of months. And I think I learned more in those couple of months than I probably would have learned in like 2 or 3 years in like real time, you know? It was intense and, you know, it was lonely and everything, but it was the best thing I could have done for a couple of reasons. I learned a lot and I got a lot of confidence in my abilities and everything. And I started working with clients and seeing all different kinds of cases and doing really cool things that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that quickly. But I also, then when I went back to Miami and because the guy was, you know, better and came back, the bosses were like, you stepped up for the firm, you saved the day, like you can just do immigration. And so I was lucky enough to specialize pretty much right from the beginning. So this has really been like the only type of law I've ever practiced in my entire career. Which has been a blessing and a curse in some ways. A blessing because I can't imagine doing anything else, and I've really had the great opportunity to really maximize my time practicing and get a lot of really good experience, and become, I think, a really good immigration attorney. A curse because, you know, for example, during the pandemic when they put all the like immigration bans and stuff, I had like a moment of crisis where I was like, what am I gonna do? Like if there's like no immigration law to like do, you know, like I'm gonna have to learn something else. And I've been practicing for like almost 20 years. At that point I had been like, you know, what, 17, 18 years or something. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I don't know how to do anything else. Like I don't want to learn from scratch now when I'm like an older attorney. You know, luckily that it was the opposite that happened and we became more needed and more required and we had more work than ever and things got more complicated. So, you know, thus the need for immigration attorneys even more. So I never had to face that road, but it was scary to think like, wow, I really only know how to do this. I don't really know how to do anything else.
Well, immigration's become so complex since you probably started till now in 20 years doing this.
Yes, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. But it all kind of builds on each other and having that knowledge from like historical knowledge and then following things. But it's funny that you say that because it's true. Every time I go to a conference, being a student in them. And my mom is always like, you've been doing this for so long. Like, why are you still going to all these classes and conferences? And I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. Like, there's something different like every day. Something different every day. Like, you got to stay on top of it. You're not going to be good at this business unless you are like on top of what's going on. And so that is something that I've really taken to heart. And I'm trying to instill now into my team, which is I have like 2 associate attorneys that are both younger, you know, so I'm really trying to get them into those habits like right from the beginning. And even the support staff, the paralegals, the law clerks, you know, all the other people on my team, like, I'm like, we need to be on top of what's happening all the time. And it's a lot. There's a lot to ask of people too, to just be like constantly hooked into like the news and what's happening and reading and staying on top of it. It's a lot. But I think you can't be a good immigration lawyer unless you do that. There's just no way. You can't be static in your knowledge of what's happening in this business. You just have to always be on top of what's new, what's next, what's happening, what's trending, what's good, what's bad, you know, all of it. Because like I mentioned in the other segment, the stakes are so high. That's right. You know, we have people's like lives in our hands, their businesses in our hands, you know, like we can't play around with that.
That's right. You may be surprised. Our business is intertwined so much because people rely on them for their financial future.
Exactly.
And the stakes are high, so we take pride in also going to conferences as well. Every year, Charles Schwab sponsors this conference. We go every year. We're taking trainings.
Can never stop learning. Never. You can't.
But when you're passionate about what you do, it's not work.
Yeah.
And you're passionate about what you do.
You know, sometimes it feels like work. When I do take my rare vacation and I'm sitting on the beach with a tropical drink in my hand, I'm like, okay, you know. And then my brain starts going, and I'm like, no, tropical drink, ocean. I'm not working today, but it's hard. It's hard to separate yourself, especially when it's your business. It's even harder, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, I have my team. They're amazing. I love my team. They're very dedicated. Actually, our slogan is Advocates for the American Dream. My senior paralegal has been with me for 10 years, came up with that slogan, and like it really resonated with me because I'm like, that's what we are. We are advocates for the American Dream. This is the perfect slogan. I got so excited when she came up with it, and that was before ChatGPT. So she did not get that out of ChatGPT. She came up with that in her brain, I'm happy to say. But it really resonates with me because everyone that works in my team, and I think it is a requirement to work for us, is like, you understand that this is what the importance of what we're doing is, and that you feel like a connection to that, like, higher purpose. This isn't just a job, and I think everyone on my team, buys into that, which is really important because that's an important part of our culture, is that like we're not just like punching in to do a job. Like we have people's lives and businesses in our hands, and just the overarching like immigration's importance to our country as a whole, and just everything that it contributes to our country. Like it's all part of it, and so we take a lot of pride in that at my firm.
Speaking of that, what are the type of clients that you like to work with, that you work with?
So another really cool thing about this industry is that we do get to work with like such a wide variety of people, so it keeps it super interesting, right? Like we have everything from like people who are just, starting out as students and, coming from some faraway country to come here and get a degree, or even just to learn English, all the way up to very sophisticated, investors, entrepreneurs, scientists, artists, entertainers. Like we just get like such a cool variety. So it's hard to pinpoint like who my real ideal client is, because we do like love the variety and we kind of thrive on that, both in terms of like the types of people and companies we work with. We're not like specific to an industry. We're not specific to like one country. Like at our firm, we really like the variety of different industries, different types of people, different nationalities. But I do think like it all comes down to, you want someone who's serious about what they're going to be doing, because it's a big commitment. Right? Like you're picking up your life in a lot of cases, you're investing a lot of money in a lot of cases, a lot of time. You're going to have to divulge a lot of information about your life, your finances, your, everything about you, your past. If you did anything bad, can't hide that. Like even if you were a young person and you're a completely different person now, if you have a criminal history or anything ugly in your background, like we need to know about it, So you need to really get honest with us. So I really look for clients that are willing to invest that, right? Because it's not just money, it's investing
time,
the trust in us to be honest with us and to tell us basically we need to know it all and see it all basically. So there's really no hiding anything, So we need the client to trust us that with everything about them, but then also investing their money, their time, their effort, all of it, their trust, but then really like just buying into like, you're in this for the long haul, because this is not going to be something easy that, maybe I'll do this. If it works out, great. If not, whatever, like that's not the kind of client I want. I want the people who are like really invested in this and really wanting to build something in the United States and are committed to that, because that's where we're going to click the most.
Yeah, because you're the advocates of the American dream.
That's right. So like I need people to advocate for that are also like in it to win it, and we really are. We celebrate our wins at my firm a lot. Like that's we just actually yesterday got a really hard and weird and complicated case approved, and I was just like, at night, it was like late. We were like on our law firm chat, just like celebrating the win and just like giving each other like a really like virtual pat on the back and like congratulating each other for that. And then like giving the clients the good news is always like
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, I found that also it's a team's effort now. I mean, to work when you
Oh my God,
to best
yeah.
help your client, it's best when you build a team that supports
When
you.
I started my firm, it was just me. So I was literally, I went from a larger setting, the story I told you. Then I kind of went to this other firm that was only did immigration, but was like a humongous, one of the biggest immigration firms in the world. And it just wasn't a right fit for a variety of reasons. Some of them to do with it wasn't a fit for what I wanted, but then also some of them were just like the circumstances of my personal life. I was getting divorced. I was losing my hair to alopecia. A lot of stuff was like happening when I was like starting this new like high powered thing, and it just wasn't the right fit or the right time for me. I sometimes I really think about like what my life would have been if that opportunity would have come to me, but at a different time in my life. Like my whole path might have been completely different, right? But who knows? Who knows? It happened the way it happened, and that all led me up to starting my firm. And in the beginning, I started my firm in 2009. It was like a weird time for the economy. It was like not a great time to start a business, but I was like, okay, I'm doing this now. And I was kind of like the reluctant entrepreneur. Like I wasn't really wanting to do it, but I kind of felt like given everything that was happening at the time in my life that I like needed to do it. So I did it. And I thought at first it was going to be like a short-term thing. And then, 16 and a half years later, here we are. But at first I was doing everything by myself. Everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Licking the stamp, making the photocopies, finding the business, doing all of the legal work, doing all of the consultations, doing all of the networking, all of the business development, everything. I wore every single hat, and it was like, now I'm like, how did I do that? First of all, what was I thinking about? How did I do that? And I think like we all kind of, when we start our own thing, like, well, not everyone, but a lot of people go through that same
some business owners,
thing, like where you start, you're wearing every hat, and then you're trying to like slowly as time goes, like take off a hat and give it to someone else to wear. And then what's the next hat I'm going to take off and give to someone else? So that eventually you're hopefully, you're still as the owner going to wear more than one hat. You have to, you can't escape that. But hopefully it's not like a stack of 100 hats. Maybe
That's
it's
right.
like 5 hats instead of 150 hats or whatever. So, I've been lucky enough over the 16 years to build a great team that is really fantastic, but it wasn't always that way. So I think it's good though. I think you have to kind of like see how the sausage is made with like all of that before you can
I love that.
eliminate, and that's why with my newer attorneys,
Analogy.
yeah.
And you also speak Spanish, so hablas español también.
Sí.
Sí, un poquito. Perfecto.
Vivía en España por unos años y podía practicar mucho el español, y ahora con los clientes hispanohablantes es imprescindible. I couldn't do my business without it. Like I have to be able to speak Spanish to do what I do in here, right? I remember once when I was having like a crisis and I was like, I want to get out of Miami. I was on a trip in California and I was like, let me just go on an interview. Like I didn't really have plans to move, but I was like, maybe I'll move. Maybe I'll get a job in San Francisco and go live there. I was at a time where, I hadn't met my current husband yet. I was already divorced from my first husband. I was kind of in that weird phase where you're like, maybe I'll reinvent my entire life because, why not?
Yeah.
I know you've been there too. So,
Yes.
and I go on this interview and I'm at this amazing firm in San Francisco, great firm, great reputation. And I'm doing this interview and they're like, well, do you speak Chinese? Do you speak Japanese? Do you speak any? And I'm like, I speak Spanish. And they're like, yeah, we don't need Spanish here. We need you to speak like
Mandarin. Well, that's
yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe not, like, whereas in Miami, like it's like almost like you can't not
in South
speak
Florida,
Spanish. Yeah. But over there it was like they didn't even care, you know, they didn't blink twice at that as anything that even interested them as a plus. And I was like, darn, okay, not moving to San Francisco.
That's right. Turned out that that's worth in your favor because the largest immigration populations coming to South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Although I'm not gonna lie, I do love my San Francisco, but now it's just for visits.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Well, to share with you your practice, I know you're very passionate. You haven't shared something also that's just as important. You also have alopecia, and you spend a lot of time in supporting causes that support people with alopecia. Can you tell us more?
So it's almost like a second job that I don't get paid for, but it's a labor of love, so it's worth all the time and effort and money that I put into it. When I was about 21, I had like crazy hair, like Julia Roberts plus, like thick, curly, crazy, like my whole life. And then when I was 21, I was actually living in Spain at the time. And I kind of like flipped my head over and I was like doing my hair in the morning. And I just had like about that big. It was like a 50-cent piece size, just like perfectly round bald spot right there. And I was like, what is that? I had no idea what alopecia was. I had never noticed anything like that. I always had a lot of hair, never any issues. And it was just like smooth like this table, like no hair at all, and round, which was weird, right? So I didn't know what that was. I went to a bunch of doctors. Eventually, I got diagnosed with alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease that basically, like, to dumb it down a lot, because I'm not good with the complicated science of all of it, your body is like attacking your hair as like a foreign thing that it rejects, right? So you could have it mild, you know, which I did for years, had it super mild for years, where I would just have like maybe one patch here. They would inject it with some cortisone, it would grow, and then, you know, it would go away. But then like a couple weeks later, a month later, I'd get one here. And then I would inject that one, and then I would grow back, and then I would get one here, and I would have to inject it there, you know. So it was like, you know, that game Whack-A-Mole at the carnival? It's like that, where I was like whacking the spots, and it was like that for a long time. And then unfortunately, when I did go through my divorce, and I was having like a very emotional and stressful and traumatic kind of time, it's not caused by stress. That's a common misconception. But stress can kind of take like the dial on the stove and turn the heat up from 1 to 10, you know? And so that's what was happening with me, and I lost all my hair. So not only was I like going through a work transition, going through a life transition with, like, you know, I had been with the same person for 8 years, and now I was suddenly single reluctantly. And then I was completely bald, and I was like, wow, what am I going to do with this now? So like, I had to then again, like, navigate that. And that was really hard for me. I struggled a lot. And then I started struggling again, because then I got the whole, what they call universalis, where not only did I have no head hair, but I lost my eyebrows, my eyelashes, all my body hair, everything, right? You become just like, no hair anywhere, because your body is like,
attacking those.
And they attack all of it, right? Wow. So like, you know, good in some ways, you know. I haven't shaved my legs in at least 10 years. I haven't shaved my legs in at least 10 years. So good things, you know, silver linings, but really hard. And that's when I really was like suffering badly, looking in the mirror and being like, jumping at my...
Been hard.
Really hard as a woman, but just as a human, looking at yourself and completely like not even recognizing your reflection is really just hard in a way that is very hard to explain if you haven't been through it. And I was suffering that alone, because my family and everyone, they were great, but like they didn't understand, you know? So I got really lucky that I found this foundation called the National Alopecia Areata Foundation, NAAF, we call it NAF, right? So NAF is the premier patient foundation for this autoimmune disease. It's based out of California. It's been around since like 1981, so it's, you know, relatively well established. And I found it by probably happenstance, you know, internet, Googling and trying to figure out resources. And I was visiting a friend in California who was a great support to me. She was actually with me in Spain when I found my first bald spot. So she had been like you and you want to go do fun things and take me to Santa Monica and whatever. But would you mind instead just driving me to this hotel where they're having this convention and dropping me off because I'm going to go to this? And she was like, absolutely. 'Cause she's my best friend and had been on the journey with me. So she was like, done, you know, and we're driving in like LA traffic, which is hell, to get me to this place. She deposits me because I was like, I'm got to do this alone. Like, you know, deposits me there, drives all the way back, you know, picks me up later. But I, for the first time, saw someone else with alopecia, someone that looked like me, someone that was going through the same thing I was going through. I had like one of those moments in your life that is like a turning point, you know? There's so many moments in your life like that, but this one was probably one of the most like profound for me on just like that whole journey was like that first conference and like being introduced to the foundation and to other people. So I was like, of course, the type of person I am is that like, I'm not satisfied to just like participate. Insurance when you have medical hair loss, you know, getting the FDA to do what we call patient-focused drug development meeting, which is where patients come and speak to the FDA so that they can understand like where a patient is coming from when they're trying to develop treatments for diseases and rare diseases especially. You know, things like that where I was getting involved and using my abilities as an advocate and as an attorney, but also as a patient to really make meaningful change. Then I got onto the board. I became the secretary of the board. I served on their board for 9 years until I was term limited and off and begrudgingly had to leave the board because of the term limits. But I've been lucky enough to step into leadership as the national spokesperson for the Walk for Alopecia, which is a new initiative that the new CEO, who's amazing, and has brought like a really cool perspective to the organization, especially now when we're finally starting to get the drug companies to recognize this disease and take interest in it and want to develop treatments. And we've actually had our first couple of FDA approved treatments just came out in the last couple of years. So she saw an opportunity and was like, we need to be doing a giant walk because we will raise tons of money. So she started it. This is going to be the third year. I got really lucky that they recognized something in me, that they wanted me to be like out front of that effort and be like a spokesperson. This is going to be my third time emceeing the walk in San Francisco at Golden Gate Park. And then that also came with emceeing things that were about the walk at like the annual conference. I emceed the walk kickoff luncheon. You know, going out there, doing interviews, doing media, like putting it out there and being the spokesperson, just in general for the patient community, but also something that they've struggled with, you know, maybe it's not alopecia, but it's something else that they've struggled with, you know. And so when you can tap into that and be authentic with people, it helps them open their pocketbook and try to support something that maybe they're not personally affected by, but that they can still see, what good there is in contributing a little bit of their money and time to the cause. So that's something that is a huge part of my life and my identity. And, this is a wig. Like, I'll take it off here. This is a wig that I wear. I instantly get cold the second I take it off. So that's part of why I wear it. The air conditioning in Miami is intense. But I definitely, for a while I was wearing this as a way to hide my alopecia, which I don't do anymore. Now I'm just like, oh, like, I think my wig looks nice with this outfit. My wig is, I like it for work when I'm like in my dress or whatever. But now I'm very like, probably over half of my time I'm not wearing a wig, and I'm very, open about it and stuff. Thank you. I'm lucky enough to have a really smooth, round head. So before my current husband, who is also now bald and was not bald when I met him, but is now bald, and I'm like, you're trying to copy me. You want to look like me. We're like twinning now. But before him, I dated this guy who was so sweet, right? But he was also a bald guy, and he had kind of like a like a little bit of a pointy cone head, and I was like, I'm really lucky. Yes, I had his nice and round, thank God. So but yeah, so like this is me, and this is it, and I'm willing to, take my wig off and show people my head, because I know that like when you are advocating for something, you need to be willing to be vulnerable and be authentic. And, when I go to Capitol Hill and I'm like doing lobbying, I don't wear my wig. When I'm doing my fundraisers, I don't wear my wig. When I'm doing anything related to the foundation, I never wear my wig. And now as time is going on, I'm wearing my wig in other settings less and less and less and less. Personal life, almost never a wig. Work, I'm still... Not sure I'm there yet, but it's a personal journey to figure out that whole aspect of, it's a lot of identity issues and weird things with how society sees you, how you see yourself, how, it's complicated, but, we're all a work in progress in some way, and myself is, I'm included in that, so it's a work in progress.
Well, Deirdre, this is amazing. It's been really such a fun thing to interview you and to get to know you over the years and to watch you grow professionally. You're an amazing person. You're an amazing woman. You're an amazing professional.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I just feel very lucky that I have gotten to know you and get to share this. Well, this is going to close our segment, but we're going to have one more, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to just talk about the things that drive you crazy in your profession. I know that traffic can be a thing, but professionally speaking, I'd like to know, to end it in a more fun way.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As usual, we try to bring great insights in these podcasts that we do, and this is no exception. So this is Dennis Coral, your host at Wealth Beyond Numbers, and as we like to say at Coral Wealth Management, financial and retirement planning confidence starts here. Thank you.